Mr. Trump's position has been clear from the beginning. He's under audit. When the audit is completed, he'll release his returns.
That was Paul Manafort yesterday defending Donald Trump's refusal to release his tax returns. The most important tax return question for Mr. Manafort now is, do Paul Manafort's tax returns reflect $12.7 million in cash that he might have been handed by his former political client, the former president of Ukraine? Despite my public urgings via Twitter, no Trump interviewer or Manafort interviewer has asked that Donald Trump release at least his audit letter from the IRS proving that he is being audited, or at least was audited. Although an audit letter could indicate that an audit commenced, we would have no way of knowing if it was still going on. So there is still no proof that Donald Trump is actually being audited. Most of the press doesn't seem to understand that. And President Nixon did release tax returns while he was being audited, so there's no reason why an audit should prevent a candidate from releasing returns. Hillary Clinton and Tim Kaine released their most recent tax returns Friday, along with this video.
We will only really know if he's a real deal or a phony if he releases his tax returns.
For the last 30 or 40 years, every candidate for president has released their tax returns, and I think Donald Trump should as well.
So, you know, if you're running, at a minimum, probably you're going to have to show your returns.
But if you didn't see the tax returns, you'd think there's almost like something wrong. What's wrong?
Joining us now, the ranking member of the Senate Finance Committee, Senator Ron Wyden of Oregon. Senator, thank you very much for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Senator, as I said, it's a tradition that the candidates release their returns, and you have an idea to make it a requirement. Tell us how you do that.
Larry, first of all, I wish it wasn't necessary. This has been a 40-year expectation. Democrats and Republicans, the reality is a tax return tells a whole lot about the people who want the world's most demanding job. The tax return doesn't spin. It's all there in black and white. What I have proposed is that within a couple of weeks after convention, a candidate would make it public. If they don't, it would in effect be automatic. You would have the Federal Election Commission get it from the Treasury Department. They would put it on the website, and the American people would have the facts.
Now, I would ask the first question that I would have asked to the Finance Committee counsel back when I was working there. Is this constitutional? The Constitution specifies requirements for the presidency: age, natural-born citizen, but the Constitution doesn't specify you must release tax returns. Tax returns didn't exist then.
Larry, it is definitely constitutional. This is well within the purview of the United States Congress. In fact, I would say it is much like when the Congress determined with the Federal Election Commission that there would be financial disclosures. So there's no question in my mind this is constitutional.
Yeah, so this would just be another element added within that FEC regime that does dictate, in effect, behavior of candidates.
I think you can say that. The reality is the American people have a right to know, and you've been touching on these questions throughout the show. For example, whether a political candidate has foreign investments. Are there conflicts of interest there? Does a candidate give to charity? I mean, these are questions that it seems to me Democrats and Republicans have all said, in effect, go with the turf. Nobody's required to run for president of the United States, but there's been a standard that you would disclose this information, and has apparently been the case fairly often. When Mr. Trump thinks it's convenient, he just ignores the standard.
Senator, I'd like you to address something, since you're the highest ranking Democrat on the tax writing committee, jurisdiction over all of this in the IRS and the Senate. Address something that I answer every once in a while on Twitter. Someone will say to me on Twitter, why doesn't the IRS just release his returns? Why can't the IRS say whether they are auditing Donald Trump or not? And I try to explain the rigorous privacy that surrounds tax information. But explain that to the audience about why how the IRS is bound to secrecy in these matters.
The IRS, and this has certainly been an important political issue, is held to very strong privacy strictures. I mean, the idea that the IRS would just disclose this information automatically without the Congress having a chance to debate this and direct it, that just to me would be over the line. I'd rather not have to go forward with a law, Larry. We usually think there are plenty of laws, but this is a case where you have a candidate for President of the United States in effect flouting the public's right to know, and he's doing it in a way that in effect walks back a tradition we've had for 4 decades in America that's been very much in the public interest.
Senator, I would guess you would have bipartisan support for this in that there's got to be a dozen or 25 Republican senators you're working with every day who feel like their party just got hijacked by this candidate who, it turns out, among other crazy things, won't release his tax returns, and they want to keep people like that away from their nomination.
You're being logical, Larry. That's going to be my argument, and I will be calling when we get to September after Labor Day. I'll be calling on the Majority Leader, Mitch McConnell, to bring this up right away as priority business for exactly the reason you've described. And I would note that you ran a comment again from Mitch McConnell in the preview indicating that he too thought that this was in the public interest.
Senator Ron Wyden, the once and future chairman of the Finance Committee when the Democrats get the majority back. Thank you very much for joining us tonight, Senator.
Thank you.